Honestly, mentally, I think I'm starting to break. Look, $500,000 is a lot of money, right? But being trapped inside a completely stark white cube, well, it turns out that's a whole lot of nothing. It's only 100 sleeps. That's actually what Susie said on night 1 of this experiment. Just sleep 100 times, and the world will have just kept going. Sounds incredibly manageable, doesn't it? Almost a little naive. Because what happens when you physically stop sleeping? What happens when the brutal reality of profound isolation takes that innocent little calculation and completely shatters it?
So let's dive right into this explainer, appropriately titled, The Day We Broke. We're going to look at exactly what happens when you push the human mind into an absolute corner, turning a stark isolation room into a literal asylum.
Here's the setup. 2 total strangers, Bailey and Susie, are locked in a massive white room together. The prize is 500 grand, sitting right there in a vault. The cost? 100 days of inescapable, agonizing isolation. Oh, and here's the crazy part. There's a painted red line. Stepping just 1 single inch over that line makes the $500,000 vanish instantly. Poof, gone. And early on, they got so insanely bored that they actually started playing with that line, literally toying with the one thing that could end it all. If one leaves, they both get nothing. From second one, they are entirely dependent on each other. And the sensory torture begins right away. The lights in this cube, they never stop. They sting your eyes until you're literally forced to hide. Time simply ceases to exist in there. In fact, on just their first night, they made the mistake of sleeping for only 2 hours. That meant they officially started their second day at 2:37 a.m. When your environment gives you absolutely zero cues about the sun or the time of day, your internal clock rapidly, violently unravels. And then there's the food. It's perfectly healthy, sure, but it is the exact same thing over and over and over. Very quickly, this completely monotonous reality becomes nauseating. The canned chicken it's sickening now. They even start whipping it at the walls. Why? Because you start fighting your food when there is absolutely no one and nothing else to fight.
The physical toll of the environment just mounts so fast. The glaring, stinging lights physically hurt their eyes, forcing them into desperate measures. They start hiding in their small, windowless private bathroom because it was the only place they could control the light. They just wanted a single second of visual peace. But here's the thing. While you can hide from the light, you cannot hide from the silence. As Bailey noted, it had been 216 hours since he saw the sun. He was literally forgetting what the world looked like.
This brilliantly illustrates how quickly the human mind fractures when you deprive it of stimulation. By just day 9, they are completely pushed to the brink. Most people would quit. Honestly, most people should quit. They're tearing paper from their journals to make playing cards just to feel human. They're creating elaborate fake sign-in sheets trying to trick the silent camera operators into writing down the date and time. It's a completely desperate attempt to anchor themselves to a reality that is slipping through their fingers. Which brings us to part 1 of their breakdown, the price of sanity. What's really fascinating about this phase is how the challenge shifts. It transforms from merely enduring the nothingness to violently resisting intense temptation. Look at this. Every 10 days, a door they didn't even know existed opens up, offering an escape from their misery. But it comes straight out of their shared prize fund. It's a calculated psychological siege, attempting to drain their money piece by piece. So, a door they didn't know existed just opens. And day 10 is a nightmare. The door opens to reveal a private chef offering to cook for them for the rest of the challenge. The price? 50 grand. But the food almost isn't the point here. The point is that the door opens to the outside. It's the very first time they see the sky and the sun in 10 days. Seeing that sky forces them to realize the crushing, suffocating weight of their deprivation. It makes them just want to go home. But eventually, the dam breaks. 30 grand. That is the exact amount they caved and spent to buy back a small piece of their humanity. By day 30, they drop 10 grand on a coffee machine and the Harry Potter book collection. By day 50, they spend another 20 grand for a brief, 10-minute visit with their families through a glass window. It proves that prolonged isolation slowly but absolutely surely erodes your financial resolve. Suddenly, $500,000 starts to mean a whole lot less than a simple cup of coffee or a familiar face. Now we enter part 2, a descent into madness. This builds to a true breaking point. They say money changes you, right? But isolation? Isolation strips you down. On day 60, they are offered a mystery box for 50 grand. Paralyzed by the fear of wasting their prize money, they reject it. The devastating reality?
Opening that box would have given them their 50 grand back, plus 2 brand new Teslas for free. It was a staggering missed opportunity. It hit them so incredibly hard that Susie became physically sick. She couldn't sleep, whining about the lost cars for 9 days straight. The mental agony of what if became its own unique kind of torture.
So naturally, when day 70 arrives, they are completely desperate to buy back their sanity. They are offered a mega package. Comfortable beds, a TV with movies, spices, a coffee maker, and actual real food. The catch? It's a blind auction. Terrified of missing out all over again, they bid a massive $100,101 to escape their purgatory. They win it, basically overpaying by 30 grand. But in that moment, they do not even care. They just want relief.
But ironically, possessing these luxury items didn't fix their minds at all. It actually amplified their annoyance. Their cube turned into a hostile environment. The new normal started feeling like an actual asylum. With the water heater exhausted by the new comforts, they're suddenly fighting over freezing cold showers. They actively start sabotaging each other, Susie literally hiding the Monopoly dice just so she wouldn't have to play a game with Bailey. Bailey is pacing maniacally at 3 a.m., full of wired, unspent energy. They totally transformed from supportive survivors into hostile, petty roommates, completely desperate for an exit.
And that brings us to part 3, the final dilemma. Day 99, the final night. It's the ultimate psychological test that forces us to ask what happens when isolation finally strips you down to your absolute core. After surviving almost 100 days together, the game changes one last time. They are separated, they are blindfolded, they are deafened with earplugs and noise-canceling headphones, and in total, suffocating darkness and silence, they are presented with a life-altering choice based entirely on the classic prisoner's dilemma. Here is the stark reality of the situation. If they both choose to split, they keep their remaining money together. If one steals while the other splits, the stealer walks away with absolutely everything, leaving the other person with zero. But if they both press steal out of greed or fear, they both get absolutely nothing. Listen to how wild this is. They went from complete strangers to hostile roommates to codependent survivors, and now, completely blind and deaf to each other, they hold the exact power to completely destroy one another with a single button press. In that darkness, it hits Bailey. This stranger he's trapped with. She's literally the only thing keeping him sane, and he's the only thing keeping her there. You really have to ask yourself, is the money worth the person I'm becoming in here? Just imagine standing in that pitch-black room, the agonizing weight of that decision. It is the absolute ultimate collision of profound betrayal versus profound trust. In the end, the room turned green. They both pressed split. As Bailey noted, there is simply no price you can put on overcoming the dark times they faced in that room together. They proved that the shared trauma of profound isolation forged a bond that was ultimately much, much stronger than a massive cash payout. It's an absolutely incredible conclusion to a harrowing journey. So I'll leave you with this. If 100 days of pure nothingness can completely rewire a human soul, how much is your sanity truly worth? Think about what you would sacrifice and who you would become if you were pushed to your absolute mental limits. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning what's beneath the surface.